It was the summer of 2023. I had just gotten into watching the YouTuber Maxor for the first time and was really enjoying his chaotic videos. I decided to click on his doll waifu simulator video about Bloodborne because it seemed like it could be fun and interesting. It ended up capturing my attention and inspired me so much that I bought a PS4 with my hard-earned money just to play Bloodborne. I was 16 at the time, I think, so I had to bring my friend, who was 18, along with me to GameStop to even be able to buy it. And thus, I went home to try out this masterpiece of a game.
Where you going?
Home.
Where's home?
The White House?
Little did I know that this game would end up becoming my favorite game of all time, and my personality for years to come. I now own a framed poster, 2 action figures, 2 normal figures, the official art book, and a Bloodborne anthology from Toon and Fairweather. In this video, I wanted to write my own love letter to Bloodborne and talk about all the things I love about it, and just get a chance to yap about my favorite game. Bloodborne made me fall in love with the genre of Lovecraftian and cosmic horror. Something is amazing about the unknowable. The fact that there could be aliens or beings out there, even in our world, that are beyond our comprehension, just enthralls me. Before I got into playing games beyond the realms of Nintendo, my favorite game was Breath of the Wild. I played that game at least 4 times all the way through. When I heard that Breath of the Wild was going to get a sequel, which we now know to be Tears of the Kingdom, I was ecstatic. I used to watch theory videos on what the sequel would be about. To be more precise, I think the channel I used to watch was The Link. I am a Faber dude. This is the name of a ship between Link and Zelda, and this is the actual channel that I used to watch. In those videos, the guy would talk about and try to uncover the mysteries of the underground with the Zonai. I don't know what it was, but it unlocked some sort of fascination in me for the unknown and what could be. Before I begin talking about my experiences, I want to do a section where I try to do a very speedy type review of remembering the lore from the top of my head, because I thought it would be funny. Also, I was going to record my footage on the Elgato 4K-S for this video, but it just didn't work no matter what I did, so you're going to get the phone camera and some other guys' walkthrough footage, whom I will link in the description. I swear I've played this game, guys. The lore of Bloodborne can be very confusing, but I've seen a bunch of random lore videos in my day as a fan, so hopefully I do a good job. If I get anything wrong or forget anything, feel free to correct me in the comments. There was this ancient race of people called the Thumerians who built these ancient underground labyrinths we know today as the Chalice Dungeons. These people served as some sort of guardians for these gods who are called the Great Ones. The Thumerians flew too close to the sun because they did something to anger the gods, possibly using their blood for healing purposes and blood rituals. They also ended up getting their queen pregnant with a Great One. We followed the cries of her child throughout the game. The Great Ones got very angry with this race and turned them all into beasts and evil things. Then, later, a new civilization called the Yarnamites arose. Eventually, a character named Lady Maria and some men discover a fishing hamlet, and they desecrate the god of the sea named Kaz, who washed up on the shore, and kill the inhabitants of the fishing hamlet. They then figure out how to use the blood of Kaz for healing. Just like how the Great Ones turn the Thumerians to beasts, the same thing happens to the Yarnamites. I'm not sure if this also happened to the Thumerians, but the Yarnamites also get put under this sort of dream or nightmare. The character that we play as, also known as the Hunter, is a Pale-Blood. Pale-Bloods are outsiders who aren't affected by the blood of the Great Ones for some reason and can use it for healing purposes, instead of transforming into a beast. The Pale-Bloods are empowered by it and get connected to the Hunter's dream. In the Hunter's dream, we have the plain doll, which was crafted by Gurman. Do you remember how I was talking about Lady Maria a second ago? Well, she got assassinated by the church because it didn't like her research, and then she went to hell, where we can fight her later. She was also Gurman's favorite student, whom he loved. So we low-key made a deal with the moon god to be trapped and watch over the Hunter's dream forever, so we could turn her into a real live 8-foot-tall Russian doll who comes alive after receiving enough insight. Insight is the neat little currency we get after seeing things we aren't supposed to. The more insight we get, the more strange things we can see, like these cute little fellas called amygdalas. Also, if we get 50 of this insight, we can start to hear singing in the Hunter's dream. And as Master Willem says, our eyes are yet to open. After you kill Vicar Amelia, who is the 4th boss in the game, depending on if you fight the Bloodstarved Beast or not, you get a cutscene depicting 2 guys talking. These 2 men are named Lawrence and Master Willem. Master Willem feared blood ministration and dabbling in the gods' healing blood, and instead wanted to focus on understanding the gods' languages. But Lawrence wanted to figure out and work in blood ministration, and his fate was eventually sealed to be a flaming version of the cleric beast we see at the start of the game. And as for Master Willem, we can find him at Bergenworth, where he seems to be non-verbal. Maybe he consumed too much insight. Okay, I know that was a lot of rambling on. I want the real Bloodborne fans in my comments to tell me how I did in attempting to explain that in a couple of minutes. When I booted up Bloodborne for the first time, I remember seeing all the infected beast people in central Yharnam, with giant werewolves being set on fire and crucified, the giant towers of Gothic architecture that surrounded me, spiraling insanely high up, and the statues trying to reach up for the heavens are all so freaking cool. All I could think about was how much I wanted to try and uncover the mystery of what was happening around me. After a while of getting my bearings and learning a bit of how the game works, I managed to beat the cleric beast. I remember the excitement and adrenaline I felt. I wanted more. Most of you who have played Bloodborne remember the headache of trying to figure out where to go and navigate the sewers at the beginning of the game. I'm not gonna lie, man, I was just blindly exploring when I stumbled upon Father Gascoigne, and thank God I managed to beat him on the first try. I genuinely think I managed to parry him like crazy and just got lucky with the timings.
It's enough to make a man sick.
In other playthroughs that I fought him, I wasn't so lucky. If you're someone who is really struggling with this guy, you can run up the stairs and get him stuck in the railing so you can extend your saw cleaver if you pick that, and get a bunch of free damage on him. Now I want to talk about my arch nemesis, the blood-starved beast. I absolutely hated this bitch. So much so that I decided I wasn't going to use Alfred as a summon, and I was going to fight him like a real man. I only parried this boss and killed it with visceral attacks. This made me crazy at parrying. I just got lucky with Father Gascoigne because this was a skill check for sure. I'm not lying when I say this took me a whole week to beat. The music was anxiety inducing and that stupid poison was a lot, man. I thought that her lore was really cool though. Learning about how the healing church drained its blood so that the only thing it had left to bleed was poison was so awesome. After that fight, most of the bosses in the main game are a breeze to get through. There's one section, however, that ties into cosmic horror very well. And it's one of my favorite areas in the game. The area I'm talking about is the Upper Cathedral Ward. For me, this was the first instance of the game where it's no longer about people turning into beasts, but instead, aliens? Up here, you can fight a boss that's like the Balloon Man group, Gleep Glorp, or whatever, where these little blue guys attack you. That's not all that's up here though, because there's also Ebrietas, daughter of the Cosmos. I think she's really freaking cool. Another part about what makes this game so amazing is that by the end of the game, your character is as strong as God. Not to mention that in one of the endings, you actually become one. If you run across the map and eat 3 umbilical cords, then you unlock this ending. Why umbilical cords, you might ask? Because this game is a metaphor in some way to childbirth, and it has a lot of feminine themes in it. An example would be the Thumerian queen and how she was able to give birth to the Great One, Oedon. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. And we follow the cries of it throughout the game. Another infamous example of childbirth in this game is if we decide to do a side quest with the Lady of the Night, Ariana, where she also gets impregnated by a Great One and gives birth in the sewer. She also loses her mind after this.
It can't be. This is a nightmare.
You could probably talk about this topic for hours, and there have been videos that talk about this for long, extensive periods of time, but we're going to move on to the next boss that really stuck with me, which was Gurmit. The music is a big part about what makes this fight so great, and I will be sure to talk about it. When I learned that this fight wasn't just 2 guys fighting, but instead 2 hopeless hunters trying to free each other from a never-ending, unforgiving nightmare is peak. It's just like that one Jujutsu Kaisen meme about the strongest sorcerer of today versus the strongest in history. Gurmit was the first ever hunter, and we're the strongest of today, considering we just beat Mirko's wet nurse, who is a great one. If you decide to play Bloodborne after watching this video, you have to play the DLC. This is not an option. I think that this DLC is incredible, because this is where the best bosses in the game are. The bosses in the base game are really cool too, and I love them, but I think that the atmosphere and everything else are what really saw the base game the most. The bosses in the DLC are absolute peak. Ludwig the Accursed / Holy Blade is my favorite boss in all of gaming, and here's why. Ludwig used to be the lead hunter of the Healing Church. He uncovered the Holy Moonlight Greatsword in the Chalice Dungeons, which is considered to be a sentient, cosmic artifact that guided him through his hunts with whispers. He thought that he was free from the curse of the beasts and would never turn into one because of his sword, but it only slowed his transformation. His fate was sealed all along, and he ultimately merges with his horse during one of his hunts and turns into a horrific beast. The DLC takes place in a nightmare where hunters and beasts who are all drunk with blood go and they die. This is where Ludwig ends up and why we fight him here. His first phase consists of fighting this mindless, relentless, screeching horse beast that wants nothing else than to kill. Once you were able to get it to half health, the most hype cutscene plays. He picks up the moonlight greatsword that fell off his back and remembers who he was.
My true mentor, my guiding moonlight.
Ludwig now sees you as a beast he must hunt, and the fight becomes so much more than it once was. This is no longer the mindless beast you were just fighting. This is a duel between two hunters. I'm gonna be so real with you guys, I didn't know there was a DLC until I beat the main game for the first time. Since I like the game so much, I decided to go back and replay it to 100% it, then do the DLC and 100% that. To do so, I utilized a certain pig fisting route up at Murgo's Loft. And even after fisting all those pigs, Ludwig is still extremely hard. Pause. The reckoning day for this guy was when I got sick and had nothing better to do but fight this guy until I beat him. It took me a couple of hours of getting dropped on from the ceiling and also trampled on. A lot. Until I finally beat him. I think now would be a great time to talk about the music in this game. In the intro to this video, I mentioned how I have a Bloodborne anthology from Toon and Fairweather titled Blood Echoes. In the chapter of that book called Choir of the Cosmos, we get some insight, no pun intended, into the composer who set the tone for the soundtrack, starting with the announcement trailer that played at E3 in 2014. The name of this composer is Ryan Amon. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Miyazaki himself hunted him down when he saw a Dark Souls fan video that featured this guy's music. I tried searching around the internet for this video, but I couldn't find it, so let me know if you guys were able to in the comments, because I would be very interested to see it. The piece that Amon had made for the announcement trailer is called Omen. The part I find the most interesting about the soundtrack for Bloodborne, which is also done in tracks with different composers, is that all of them decided to stay far away from the pipe organ and the harpsichord. They decided this because of how prominent these instruments are in other Gothic Victorian Dracula-like media. They instead decided to go for the cello, violin, and piano to build this sense of dread that something is coming, but there's no way to stop it. I think this was genius, especially with the underlying cosmic horror twist that happens later in the game. The music I wanted to talk about specifically was the music in the DLC that is done by Nobuyoshi Suzuki, noted for Ludwig the Accursed and Holy Blade. And then we have Tsukasa Saito and Yuka Kitamura. Like I was saying, Ludwig now sees you as a beast he must hunt, and the fight becomes so much more than it once was. What makes it so special is that the song tells Ludwig's story without dialogue. It's not just a boss theme, it's a requiem for a hero who couldn't save himself. I feel like I see everyone and their mom who likes Bloodborne talking about this song. It's just so good. After I beat him, I went back to grab the goofy little medallion from Lawrence's giant hand. Yes, you heard me right. That thing is Lawrence. Anyways, I then go back to the Ludwig area, and up the stairs. Now, I want to talk about a theory about the boss you have to beat to even unlock the DLC in the first place, Vicar Emilia. In the cutscene at the start of her boss fight, we can see that she is wearing all white before transforming into a giant deer beast. When you kill her, you basically send her down to hell, I think, where the DLC is located. And here she is now, trying to get revenge on me for slamming her out the first time. Naturally, I slam her out again and put this goofy little medallion on this skeleton's head. There's probably some lore that tells me who this skeleton belongs to, but I don't know it. This activates and takes me up an elevator that leads to the research hall, and right up to Lady Maria. Yeah, living failures, we're not going to talk about you. Anyways, this boss is so cool, not only because of her cool design, moves, and music, which I will talk about in a second, but also because of who she used to be. Under Bergenworth's orders, she traveled to the fishing hamlet to investigate the washed-up corpse of the Great One, Kaz. She participated in a brutal raid, massacring, dissecting, and searching for eyes inside the villagers' heads, and harvesting the blood of Kaz. The research hall that I was just in is where the church was experimenting on people. Lady Maria tried to atone for her sins because of the things she did in the fishing hamlet by trying to be a compassionate caretaker for these people, leading to her assassination later on. The music for this boss fight sounds like guilt and grief trying to be graceful, as if Maria is fighting not to win, but because she believes she deserves punishment. Every swell of the orchestra feels less like rage and more like buried pain finally breaking through.
What in the Bluetooth hitbox?
This fight and music are awesome, but now I want to show you the other boss fight hiding behind her guilt and trauma. a boss that instills fear. I actually killed Lady Maria on my first try because I'm just that goated, and she drops us the celestial dial. You can hoist the dial up at the backside of the giant clock that opens up to the fishing hamlet. This is my favorite area of the DLC, and make fun of me if you want, but my favorite area in the main game is the Upper Cathedral Ward. Anyways, once I made it through this area, which is decently a short one, I stumbled upon a corpse washed up on the beach. I watched in horror as something crawled out of it. The Orphan of Kaz. If you thought the other bosses in this game were hard, wait till you meet this fella because damn! I didn't know getting beaten to death by a hardened placenta would become one of my fears. This fight took me about 15 to 20 tries, but once you get the old backstab technique down, the first phase becomes a breeze. At the start of the fight, what you need to do is stand at this bit of rubble. He should jump at you, but don't dodge, just walk under him. Then fully charge a heavy attack on his back, and then you can backstab him. However, once you get into his second phase, you have new fish to fry. This motherfucker gets wings and throws more shit at you. I can't forget to talk about the music that kicks in for this second phase because this piece is terrifying. Let me play a snippet for you. It sounds like something that should never have existed and forced into the world. Ludwig's second phase and Lady Maria's fight both felt like duels. But this fight feels like getting hunted in the woods. When I finally beat this guy, I swear I felt a weight lifted off my chest. It was so anxiety-inducing. I think the scenery for this fight is beautiful because I love the ocean, along with the gloomy aesthetic of Bloodborne. Ever since I was a kid, I've had thalassophobia, which is the fear of the deep sea. This fear was so bad that I was afraid of the deep end of the pool, which was only 12 feet deep. To eventually conquer my fear of this, I became a competitive swimmer and pretended sharks were chasing me, which helped me go faster, of course. I guess I'm just a weirdo and fell in love with the things I'm afraid of. More than 80% of the ocean is unexplored, and I love the unknowable. This also ties into astrophobia, the fear of space. To get the secret ending in Bloodborne, you have to go find and eat 3 umbilical cords. Normally, if you decide to free Gehrman from the dream, then the moon presence forces you to take his place in the hunter's dream. But if you consume all the umbilical cords, then the moon presence can't do this, and you get the ability to kill it. This fight is not hard in the slightest. The only thing that could pose an issue is its move that will get you down to 1 HP in an instant. But if you have enough blood vials, then it just doesn't matter. I don't think that this fight being easy makes it bad though. This boss is cool to me because of how it ties into the fear of space. This is the moon god after all, and for all we know, things like this could be out there, and we just don't know it. The design of this boss looks a lot like a xenomorph from Alien. Alien is another piece of media that has to do with the horrors of femininity and childbirth, so it makes sense for this boss to have that inspiration. I know I'd be doing this out of order, but I want to talk about the music in Gehrman's boss fight. The name of the song is The First Hunter, which Tsukasa Saito also does. If you stick around the hunter's dream, you can hear him say these sad words.
Unshackle me, please. Anybody. I've had enough of this dream. The night blocks all sight. Oh, somebody, please.
And out of the kindness of his heart, he wants to free you from this despite how he wants to free himself. This fight is about trying to free each other from the nightmare. So, what does that sound like? If you let him kill you, then you wake up again in the real world. Gehrman has a special ability granted to him that allows him to free other hunters bound to the dream. With that being said, I think it's time to close out this video. Looking back, it's crazy to think that a chaotic YouTube video was the catalyst for me falling down this rabbit hole. What started as a hard-earned purchase at 16 turned into a genuine obsession with the unknown, the cosmic and the beautifully tragic world that From Software created. Bloodborne isn't just a game I play, it's a world I find myself returning to whenever I need to feel that rush of adrenaline or that sense of awe at the scale of the universe. Whether we eventually get that 60 FPS patch, a PC port, or that Jacksepticeye produced movie, I'll be there on day one, ready to hear the Astro Clock Tower bells ring again. But for now, I'm content with just being another hunter lost in the dream. Still fascinated by things that go on in the cosmic night. Thanks for letting me yap about my favorite game for a bit, and remember, our eyes are yet to open. I'll see you in the next one.